I welcome you to this virtual event. We know that many of you have been praying for the students and staff of the Moriah School for many years, and we hope that you will see some answers to your prayers in this presentation. Next slide, please. If you have ever visited the Moriah School, this picture on the left will bring back some fond memories for you. The gate is open in anticipation of your arrival, and the children are gathered to greet you. As you enter the courtyard, they will shower you with flower petals and sing songs that will make you smile, just as they are all eagerly smiling at you. And you may be wondering then, so how did this school get started? And we have Dr. Esther Dale here this evening to tell us the heartwarming story. Esther, please.
Can one Christian school in India make a difference? Can it make a difference for this adorable little Hindu girl? Can it improve the lives of these two young, beautiful Muslim teenagers? Christian school made a tremendous difference in the life of this young lady, Teja Karuna, the founder of the Moriah Children's Home. How did she go from being a village schoolgirl to a teacher in India's capital city, to a pastor's wife and mom in Plymouth, Minnesota, and then back to India as the founder of the Moriah Children's Home?
Good evening. It is an honor to speak with you about the Moriah Home, and a particular joy for me to speak about the way that God worked in the life of my mom. Moriah School and Home were a vision for my mother, Karuna. Moriah was founded in 1999. My mom was born into a strong Hindu family, but God, through a Lutheran school and through the scriptures and songs that she learned, worked in her heart and brought her into his family. It changed her life. She went on to become a lifelong teacher, and God used her to change the trajectory of thousands of kids through the Moriah School and Home. In India, education divides those who become day laborers and those with some modicum of economic security. The stakes for education in India are much higher, and the consequences are much starker than they are in the US. Culturally, there is little sympathy for those who are underprivileged. That is just people suffering their karma, and actually it's ordained by the gods. Here is a story of God using mom in changing the life of a student, a sort of just-in-time miracle in the life of a young man who became part of both the Moriah Home and School. Just to give you a heads up, mom is referred to as Ammagaru, meaning respected mother.
I'm Rangana Teja. I started my school in Moriah Public School 2006 and 2010. My journey was started. How my journey started in Moriah Public School? Main thing, when I finished my 5th standard, even in that time we don't have money to study further education in my family. So in that time, my family think that you can stop your education and you can do another work, like a small works. In India, it's gone, some works. So I'm decided to, my education will stop in this year, I decided. But one fine day, my grandmother listened about the Moriah School. They are giving free education for lower middle class people, and they are unable to invest money to study further education. That type of food kids they are supporting. My grandma listened that thing. So one fine day we met Ammagaru in 2006. Tomorrow Ammagaru planned to go US, I think, on next day. And before day we met Ammagaru. So Ammagaru said, my grandmother tell everything problems what we are facing in my house. So Ammagaru realized, and no worry about your kid. We take over your kid, and we are giving good education, and you can join tomorrow, Amagaru said. And in that day onwards, my journey start. Even you believe or not, in one room, my mother, my father, me, and my brother living only one room. That type of middle class we are facing the problem. Suddenly I joined in the hostel. They are giving uniforms, best quality food, and right education, and everything they are provided. So I feel very happy, and they are giving communication skill classes and sports conducting activities and the cultural activities. Everything my life done before 2005, after I joined the Moriah Public School, entirely changed my life. If I am here now, the reason, the Moriah Public School.
Karuna is referred to as Amagaru, which means respected mother. She was a mother to Teja and many students who lived at the Moriah home. Teja was personally invited by my mom to join the Moriah School because his family could not afford school. He was at a crossroads. He had the choice to continue his education or do what was called small jobs, which is to become a daily laborer, a child laborer, to support his family. Many grateful alumni, such as Teja, returned to visit the Moriah School. In this case, Teja actually reached out to my brother Paul through Facebook right as we were planning this this presentation. Here is a compelling story of two girls at the home that shows us how Moriah School and Home is a special place for girls ministry. This is a story about two teenagers whose mother died in a train accident 2 years ago. The relatives sought to withdraw the girls from school to exploit the government benefits due to them. Their grandparents intervened and brought them back to the Moriah home to ensure that their education was continued and that they were raised in a safe environment. The blunt truth is this: girls are often undervalued and seen as a burden. Few are willing to spend resources to develop their abilities. The Moriah School provides new opportunities to girls. Culturally, all STEM resources are prioritized for boys, leaving slim pickings for the girls in a poor country. So what we're doing at Moriah is actually countercultural. We'd like you to meet Padma and Baji and hear their testimonial about their experience at Moriah.
What do you like about your school?
Good teaching.
What would you like to do after you're completed at Moriah School?
I hope for job.
Do you know what kind of job?
Software job.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
What is your favorite memory at Moriah School?
It's semi-Christmas function.
Christmas, okay.
Sorry.
My favorite subject is physics.
And Padma?
My favorite subject is physics.
So here is the payoff. Now you have two young women whose ambitions are changed. All right, and I'd like to pass it over to my brother, Paul.
What is the vision for the Moriah School in the next 5 to 10 years? First of all, we want Moriah School to become an international school with international curriculum and standards. Yes, this is a school that was started humbly helping children from disadvantaged backgrounds. But we truly believe that children should be able to compete in a global economy and not just in the local economy, as Teja has given a good example. Most foundational to this goal is for the children to be able to read, write, and speak in English. If we start English at an early preschool stage, the children will be fully proficient and fluent by the time they're in 4th and 5th grade. STEM, these subjects are often, as Esther had alluded to, are dominated by boys. Moriah School is going to nurture interest in these subjects to girls. Technical skills. We would like to introduce more technical skills such as coding, website development, data center management to our older children, so that these children, once they are graduated from high school, will already be employable in the economy of the future. Now, schools in India are often segregated, often by money or people's background. Moriah School hopes to change that. We would like to be an agent of change into breaking these educational barriers, so children can come and be educated even though they come from very different backgrounds. They come from different religious backgrounds or castes or family connections. We hope that education will be a great leveling field for the children in India going forward. You can see that photo is of Teja, who, after successfully finishing Moriah School, went on and waited tables, saved money, and went on to be successful in a number of Indian companies, and now is getting his master's at a college in England. And these are the kinds of goals that we would hope to have for our children in the Moriah School. At this time, I'd like to have my brother David speak a little bit about where we are with our education and what we're planning on doing going forward. David, please.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. As Paul was saying, as great a change as we see in these kids in terms of their aspirations and their accomplishments, we're changing the paradigm ourselves at the school. We're trying to bring what would normally be considered elite education to underprivileged kids who wouldn't otherwise have access to it. Really, we're doing this thing in several ways. First, historically, rote methods were the only method of teaching students in India and sadly even at Moriah. So going forward, we're changing that, and we're changing that with a more updated and modern pedagogical methods. And additionally, classrooms are often crowded and kids are sitting on top of each other. They're packed like sardines. And we're changing that aspect as well by redesigning classrooms and seating, so it's a much more conducive environment for children. And finally, the current teaching materials that are used, because this is by all means a poor country, and the teaching materials reflect that. They generally dull the students' curiosity and really drain them of any intellectual enthusiasm that they bring to it. So we're changing that with modern pedagogical methods and materials that we, in a more rich country like us, we take it for granted. Next slide, Susan. Okay, so what we're doing here really is implementing what the Indian government really aspires to for its country. In fact, these changes, what we kind of take it for granted, is enshrined in a new education policy that they just passed last summer. It's called the 2020 New Educational Policy, and they're doing a wholesale revision of just an educational culture over there. Now, while the government can promulgate the policy, it's going to take a while before it trickles down to, you know, your run-of-the-mill village schools. But what the policy enshrines, and this is where we think that Moriah is actually ahead of the rest of the schools, is that it recognized the importance of the foundational education, really not just for rest of their stay at the primary and secondary schools, but really for the rest of their academic career. And just like Esther had alluded how education is the dividing line, English becomes really truly the dividing line between those with really meaningful education and those with a ritualistic education, or you might call it, you know, education in name only type of experience. So we're really making English the cornerstone of this foundational stage of the children's education, and in that vision, you know, just like God always does, you know, He has sent us an experienced and expert panel. It was headed by Sharon Kenice. They've been working tirelessly in helping us to rethink, because none of us are educational experts, and yet they bring all of their experience and expertise to help us to rethink this and to really change the paradigm, as I started my remarks. So, Sharon, can you tell us what you and your team have been up to lately?
Yes, thank you, David. So the pause during COVID has allowed an opportunity for cross-continent planning on how to implement this bold vision. And so the vision is twofold for the early childhood. It's to expand the English learning to the youngest students, age 3 through 6. And this is a big change since English has not been taught to the little ones before. And secondly, reworking the existing classrooms for best practice of the youngest students. So if you are looking here at this pink sheet, this is a room floor plan as we're envisioning changing the environment. So take a moment to think about your own childhood, your toys, the colorful toys you played with, the environment, the access that you had when you were a child, or your children when they were young. That's best practice. Sturdy toy sets, puzzles, child-sized tables, shelves, so that children can choose toys. That's best practice, no matter where a child is living or learning. Having the opportunity to play, to explore, and choose activities. Now, research says that is the best way for brains to develop so that children will be successful in school going forward and later in life, which is the school's goal, of course. The best global standards of early childhood then involve play, exploration, and child-directed activities. And that's specifically how young children learn and develop. All right, next slide, please. Because of a lack of resources, as been mentioned, in developing countries, the teachers of poorer children educate through what was said, a rote memorization, teacher-directed activities. And so you see here quite a few children all together. Let's look at another slide. Look at how these children have to nap together. So why worry about this? Why worry about their environment or the lack of resources? Well, there is another slide that's going to mention what the National Association for the Education of Young Children states. The first years of life are critical for later outcomes. To learn, and children have that innate desire to learn, that desire can be either supported or undermined by early experiences. So the environment, the resources do matter. We can change the trajectory of these children and their families by making some changes now. Because of a lack of family financial resources, the school does need cross-continent support And so that's where we're going with this. Supporting congregations and a consortium of friends to Moriah Home, North America, have this one-time opportunity this spring to fill freight pallets for delivery to India. Next slide. So some of our first priority items will create this new early childhood environment for our youngest students at Moriah School. So wooden blocks, shelves, large play equipment, sensory tables, next slide, tables, chairs, cots for napping. These are all things that we may be able to send over. These items will create an environment that allows the young children to learn how to think. And as they progress and grow, they will be able to think to learn. Rather than memorizing facts in a crowded classroom, we hope for the children to have a learning environment that helps them be successful in India's global economy. I'm going to pass off to our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Sharon, for giving us a complete overview, and David too, for why this is needed. You can see a picture of a few items here that we hope to fund and ship in that on our opportunity. And these are items that are really confined to the elite in India. And we're planning to make them accessible for the underprivileged children. Please join us in changing the trajectory of Moriah children. Next slide. You can help by donating at our website, moriahchildren.com. 100% of all donations go to the school. There is no overhead, there is no administration. The school is operating on a very tight budget, so donations are really appreciated, and in this case needed in order to ship what we plan to ship. Other options could be of Thrivent Choice dollars being directed, and if you go to your, those who are members, go to your choice dollars and select Bible Faith Lutheran Ministries, it will designate your dollars to go there. Another possibility might be to donate some of the required minimum distributions if you're retired and have things like that available to you. Next slide. We have had the opportunity to visit India. I've been there twice. And our next guest, Nancy Deerdorf, has been there 3 times already. And I know a number of other visitors have been there at least twice. So Nancy has some words to say for encouraging.
Oh, thank you so much, Madeline. You know, none of us chooses where we will be born. And yet, working together, we're able to make such a difference in the lives of so many. I was so fortunate to be able to visit India, something I never thought would be part of my life, and so blessed to meet these kids. They taught me such amazing things. One boy threw a softball back and forth to me, and every time I caught the ball, he said, "Superb, stupendous." It was very affirming. Another girl finally got me to the point where I could double jump rope. That's 2 people in 1 jump rope. I had never been able to do that. Such a blessing to get to know these children. You know, I've never been to a place where when I walked in, I was showered with flower petals. And we just want to shower these kids with love and opportunity and help them to live up into their promise. And with the work that we're doing at Moriah School, with everybody together praying and supporting and visiting India, we are going to make this happen by God's grace. And I don't know who's coming after
a joy also for the children, not just the people who visit, but we experienced that every morning that we were there. So how can you help? Besides financial, a team of U.S. volunteers formed in 2019 with a desire to help improve the English literacy skills of students, and then realized many of the teachers needed help with improving their abilities also. Ravi, a young man who had taught English in a previous school in India for a short time, was hired last January to teach students and staff at Moriah. The U.S. volunteers offered resources for him to share with the students and staff. When COVID closed the schools in India, some staff development continued for a couple of months, but by July, there was no one who could come to the school. As the new school year approaches, we want to continue planning how we can help, how we can reach out and assist both students and staff. Volunteers could make a huge difference. We have limited numbers of volunteers right now in this English Proficiency program, but it's so important because not only are we going to implement the English for the early childhood, but we have to make sure that the entire school gets assistance in the English language. So we are going to continue to seek volunteers, and any of you here tonight who are interested, we'll get to that later. Next slide. I've got just the screen up of our website there. The two initiatives go hand in hand, English learning and early childhood education. Throughout 2020, the idea of helping students and teachers with English proficiency led to the concept of teaching it as early childhood at Moriah. The thought of how to introduce English at the earliest ages led to the realization that a lot of transformation was needed in the existing pre-K to kindergarten. So when it was learned that we had space to ship items, it was a new opportunity to just move forward and try to engage other people who might be wanting to help support as well. While the most recent or the most urgent need right now is for financial contributions, another way to help is by volunteering. Next. So volunteers can really make a difference. Here's a picture of Sharon with the children doing puzzles and games and teaching. And those are some of the ways if you visit, you can help, is just interacting with them. But also we have so many volunteers who are needed right here to do distance learning. And so there will soon be a list posted on the website of all the ways we think you could help. But if you're interested right now, you can go to the contact page at the bottom of the website homepage and just click in there and give us information about how you think you could help or what you're asking can be done, and we will get back to you. Next slide. And back to Paul. Thank you.
We want to just be an ever fountain of young people who are going to go out into not only India, but throughout the world and make a real difference. And they're going to look at how God has used the Moriah School to bless them. And so that they can be a blessing to their families, to their friends, and back to the school as well. Because we want children to look at people like you and say, you know what, 10 years from now, I'm going to be successful like that. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk to these kids. I'm going to talk to kids who are my classmates. And I'm going to tell them, I'm going to be a source of inspiration for them of hard work and perseverance and to show them how God has used these events in my life to make me successful and to bring me up in a way. So that's the overall vision that we have for the school. And we have wonderful partners in people like Susan and Madeline and many other people to bring that about. And so that's the vision for the school going forward. So
it's a great idea, sir. It's a great idea.